Good evening, my friends. Welcome to Wednesday Night Live. Near the end, the terminus, the final boss game of January 2026. It is the 28th of January 2026. Thank you for joining. Still aging. That's good, because when you stop aging, you start rotting. So that's good. That's good. Somebody says, oh, good evening, Sapanto. Nice to see you again. HT says, hi all. It's great that Stefan is back. He was kicked off YouTube for a while. Was I? Just for a while. Looking progressively crypt keeper here. See, I have these little divots here because I have a skull, and it's all, look at that, it's all falling slowly down. All falling slowly down. Your face falls, your body falls, you fall into the grave, but not tonight. At least, I hope not. All right. We're going to try a little something here. Don't know if it's going to work. Might work, might not. What have we got here? A microphone, communications, multi-channel. I don't know if that's going to work or not. Let's try. All right. We have someone who wants to chat, which is good. Oh, so fiddly. Dear God. Tiny screen, tiny screen. All right. Vin.
Cuckoo Picchu. Cuckoo Picchu. Yeah? I'm the Eggman. I am the walrus.
All right. Excellent. Good to know. Good to know that we have a walrus here. Raymond, what is on your mind? Going once, going twice. Can you hear me? I'm waiting for that ear blast to come in. You can speak, but you're going to need to unmute. Bum bum bum. La 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 la. Raymond is not with us. Raymond is not with us. Well, that's all right. Okay. So, happy to take your questions. I will just put these out here. Questions, welcome. And let me know if, did you hear the walrus? It sounds like, did you hear the walrus? I wanted to know if this new setup is working. I'm trying to do less cables, so I'm trying to do a thing with Bluetooth, but it's kind of tough to test without going live. So, all right. How much of the economy? Let me ask you this: how much of the economy do you think is real? Real, honest to goodness, absolutely real. And how much of it is made up, fraud, money printing, women, and so on? How much of the economy do you think is real? What percentage? I like to think of the economy not as just being 8 guys running everything. Yeah, like real. I mean, so like relative to a free market society, right? So in a free market society, I mean, there would be national defense, but it would actually be used for, wait for it. The national defense would shockingly, theoretically, I believe, actually be used for national defense. Biggest military budget in the history of the planet. America cannot secure or will not secure its own borders. It can secure borders of other countries and quite a bit too, but it cannot or will not support its own borders. So, yeah, how much of the economy do you think is actually real? What do we got here? 50%, 20%, 25% real, 70% manipulated, 5% attack helicopter. Nice one. Like 1%, everything is based on fiat, so it's all fake. Yeah. I heard a chilling stat. Says someone that some $25 quadrillion exists in derivatives and made-up financial games. Yeah. Or what was it? Peter Schiff was on Tucker Carlson recently. Obviously well-greased. I think they were practicing the luge. And he was... Tucker Carlson was saying, what was it? Relative to gold, the S&P is down like 70% over the last couple of decades. So, let's see. Let's see. I want to see if the tech is working for people talking. Oh my God. It's like, let's see if we can get the person on who wishes to talk. Barcode. Are you on the line?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
So I think you posed an interesting question. I just wanted to put out a thought. I think the extent to which money is real and the economy is just like a subset of money is really like a nation's capacity to make and do. So whenever you see these like major regional powers forming, think like Germany in Europe, it's always like the manufacturing capacity, the ability to make and do stuff that seems to like shift all the tides of wealth, right? So the extent to which our economy is real is how fast we can make stuff with sort of we have an attractor beam to like hire engineers as well. So if you kind of think of the world in like a mercantilist, like there is a finite number amount of wealth to go around. That's a little doomer because yes, wealth like generates more as innovation happens. But to the extent that like wealth as an asset is more like prestige or like the ability to get rich and get ahead of your neighbors and stuff, the stuff that attracts the engineers and the stuff that can hire military people, then that's the real wealth of a nation. So, there's GDP measurements and things like that. Like there's a lot of like recycling of our own money and, doing these admin jobs that kind of just push it all around. But how much our dollar is actually worth is backed by, military production and, our ability to innovate, to jump ahead on, production and military technology.
Okay. So what percentage would you say of the economy, let's just take an economy that more people are familiar with, America, what percentage would you say is real?
I'd say maybe like 40% manufacturing and like maybe 20% of like, the push and pull kind of whimsy. We hire the best engineers and people here.
Okay, so I'll tell you sort of my thoughts. Happy to get people's feedback on it. Roger, if you wanted to join the conversation, we can have a bit of a round table if you like. Roger, you're on the line as well if you want to give your thoughts on what's real in the economy. Well, I suppose not. Okay, so what is the economy? It's sort of a very important and sort of foundational question. What is the economy? So there are primary goods that are produced and consumed, which to me do not add massively to wealth. This is just my way of looking at the economy. I think it will make some sense. And the way that it works for me is like this. So farmers produce food and you eat food, and that's fine, but it's produced and it's consumed. Some of it's, of course, stored and tinned and canned and all of that, but and it's fine. But the problem is more food generally just produces more people, right? If you take all of this food and you send it to Africa, you just end up with more people in Africa. It does not make Africa wealthier. So I don't view that as foundational wealth. There's other kinds of wealth that are Secondary. Let's look at makeup, right? Not the exam, but the foundation, right? So look at something like makeup. Is makeup economically productive? Absolutely not. I mean, women wear it. It makes them feel cool. It makes them attractive and helps them get male attention, which apparently they both want and don't want in equal measures these days. So makeup is not economically productive. Dresses, cool hats, headphones for music, video game consoles, movies. These are fine things. Nothing wrong with them. But they are the shadow cast by a productive economy. They are secondary effects of a more raw productive economy. To go and see a movie, if all the economy did was make movies and sell movie tickets, it wouldn't be much of an economy, right? It would kind of collapse. So you need wealth to, you can survive without air conditioning, right? You can survive without movies. You can't really survive without food, but food is produced and consumed relatively quickly. So I used to drive myself nuts, even as a teenager, trying to think about, like, what does it actually mean to have a productive economy? What does it mean to get wealthier? What does any of this stuff really mean? And a lot of it, in my view, is based upon worker productivity in the primary economy. And the primary economy are things which permit the economy to grow in a sustainable way. So if you have a lathe that is needed for industrial machinery, and you find a way to produce twice as many lathes with twice as many outputs. The lathe, you invest in a lathe, you get twice as many outputs as you did before, and those outputs are kind of important. That's sort of a raw growth of the productivity of the economy. Because it's not a consumer item, right? Makeup is a consumer item. You don't use makeup to make money. I guess if you're a prostitute or whatever, but it doesn't generate more money in the economy. What generates more money in the economy, what generates a growth in the economy, is foundational increases in worker productivity, generally in capital goods or in foundational consumer goods. So how much of the economy is real and how much of it is dependent upon the economy being real? So you go to the mall, almost none of it is real. Like, what do you get at the mall? You get some clothes, you get some underwear, I guess. You get some facial moisturizer, you get some snacks, and so on. And I guess now nothing but cell phone booths everywhere. So you go to the mall and you're buying frou-frou stuff. It's desserts, it's meringues, you can't live on it, but it's a nice little addition to the life that you have and the life that you lead. What is it that is real? So if you use a cell phone to browse Instagram and call your friends to say when you're going to go meet up, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But it doesn't grow the economy. It's not fundamentally productive to the economy. So let me sort of revise the food thing a little bit. So one of the things that was the foundation for the Industrial Revolution was the Agricultural Revolution. I wrote a whole novel about this, justpoornovel.com. You should go check it out. It's a really great book. Because when there was no real economic growth throughout most of human history when everything was subsistence, because there was no meritocracy in the agricultural market, because people were tied to the land, there were slaves, serfs, and so on. So what that meant was that the most productive lands did not end up in the hands of the most productive people. So you get the people with a green thumb, this amazing sort of Pareto principle ability to increase crop yields and so on. Then you get a whole bunch of extra food. When you have a whole bunch of extra food, you need fewer workers on the farm. When you need fewer workers on the farm, you kick a bunch of people off farmland, and then they go to the city. It's the only place they can really go because nobody needs farm workers anymore. And you go, and people go to the city, and then you have a labor pool, and you have a capitalism so that you can soak up the people who don't need to work on the farm anymore, and they can produce capital machinery, they can produce goods and services that can actually start to grow the economy. So there is a certain amount of efficiency in excess food production, But of course, when you have a welfare state, as Rome found out, when you have excess food production and a welfare state, you just end up with more and more dependent people on the government, and it sort of causes a giant sinkhole to open up beneath the economy as a whole. So the economy being real, to me, is a really fascinating phenomenon about what is real and what is not. If you look at something like cigarettes, right? So cigarettes are, I suppose, fun for people. Nicotine is a drug of productivity, unlike weed, which is why they hate cigarettes and push weed. But if you can't have an economy based on cigarettes, maybe in prison, but that's sort of a fiat or ersatz currency. So there are luxury goods and consumption goods, and then there are sort of foundational productivity labor.
I agree with
So
everything you're saying.
the computer power that ends up with video games is fun, and it's a leisure economy. It is not a foundational productivity economy. In fact, you could look at video games as an anti-productivity economy, because instead of people reading to improve themselves or learning new skills, they're pew-pewing pixels on a screen and not really adding much to their human capital, so it actually is kind of a drain. And that's fine. I mean, we don't have to spend 24/7 in some sort of Protestant hell of self-improvement. But what is the actual economy? What is it that actually makes us money?
Can I float an
Not
idea?
much, really. So if Elon Musk's FSD, the sort of auto-driving stuff, gets its way, and I've seen him make the claim on X that there are insurance companies that will give you half price the more you use the automated driving because it's so safe. So let's say that you get self-driving cars, self-driving trucks. Well, that will release a whole bunch of people into the economy, and then they can do other things that are more productive, and so on, right? So how much of the economy is actually real? How much of it is demand for video games has driven a lot of tech development usable for other things? Sure. But that's seeing the seen versus the unseen. So a pull economy that says, well, we developed all these GPUs for video games. Now it turns out that they're helpful for AI, let's say something like that. Okay. But without video games, the investment would have been more targeted and focused in that, right?
Well, video games are being used to map 3D
So,
environments. That could
how
be
much
added.
of the economy is real? I mean, if you can figure that out, I mean, I would dare say that you could end up with it being a pretty good investor if you can figure out what aspects or parts of the economy are actually real. So, and then the reason I'm talking about this, Rambo Van Halen on X wrote, I've written about this before, but I often wonder how much of our economy is fake. Back in the day, in Los Angeles, there was a prevalence of cell phone accessory stores, sometimes several per block. We'd film on these dumpy commercial streets and be working in front of these shops for days, but we wouldn't see a single customer enter or exit. The off-duty cops we hire for traffic control explained that it's all money laundering. The same with the bodegas, the vape shops, and most of the restaurants. In Los Angeles and many other cities, there are miles and miles of streets full of businesses with no customers. And yes, most of them are owned by immigrants. Another story, this time from San Francisco. A new Asian hot dog place opened in my neighborhood. It looked cute from the outside, thought it might have good food. Sometimes these places do. So I went in and ordered a hot dog. The cute Asian girl disappeared into the kitchen. Doesn't come out for a long time. After 15 minutes, I walked to the counter and asked, how's it going in there? But I get no answer. So I peeked into the kitchen, and to my surprise, there was no kitchen. It was just an empty room, no fridge, no stove, no food, and there was no cute Asian girl. She'd left. She had my money, so I stuck around to see what the F was going on. A few minutes later, she returned with a hot dog. I have no idea where she got it from. I asked, but she pretended not to understand English. So this raises some questions. Because in San Francisco, the health department grade must be placed in the window of the restaurant. And the fake hot dog place had a legit 99% rating, probably because they had no food on the premises. So somebody from the city of San Francisco inspected and passed a fake restaurant. The inspectors were probably on the take. At best, they looked the other way. These shops take up a lot of retail space. It's a lot of real estate. And retail space, especially in San Francisco and Los Angeles, is expensive, mainly because the cheap space is taken up with fake businesses. In the past, I've looked into opening retail businesses. The biggest expense is rent, and it's so expensive that I abandoned the business ideas after running the numbers. So how much of the commercial real estate market is propped up by these sham businesses? And how many honest entrepreneurial Americans could be running their own small businesses, but aren't doing so because the rent is too damn high? Once you start looking for fake businesses, you can't stop seeing them. So the next time you're driving around a city, look at the dumpy commercial strips and the dirty store windows. Then look at the crappy strip malls with peeling paint, cracked signs, and empty potholed parking lots. Then ask yourself, how much of this is real? I used to look at the dumpy exteriors of these businesses and naively think they should clean this place up and make it charming and attract more customers. But, as it turns out, there's a point to the dumpy exteriors. They're intentionally repelling customers because serving customers isn't the real business. Steve Saylor wrote, great moments in shopping in the San Fernando Valley. I see a storefront advertising HP printer cartridges for sale. The shop is empty of customers, workers, or inventory. Then a man in gold chains, like a character in Anora, comes out and glares at me. I say, I need a HP XYZ cartridge. Not in stock. Could you check for me? Not in stock. When I lived in Montreal, there was a pizza place down the street that had the most chunky, thoughtful, obviously intelligent guy behind the counter, Italian, as you could imagine. It had a couple of pinball machines that never made any money because you could tilt the hell out of them. Like with pinball machines, if you hit them too hard, they tilt and then you lose your flippers. And you just knew. You walked in there. I would go and play pinball every now and then. You could play pinball forever on a quarter. The game just went and went. Nobody ever came in. It was just a money laundering place, I'm sure. Now, I think this is not valid, but there's an article here that says multiple sources citing 2023 to 2025 data, including analyses referencing Ernst & Young reports and visual capitalist mappings, estimate that the U.S. shadow economy is about 5% of GDP. This equates to roughly $1.4 to $1.55 trillion in value, given recent U.S. GDP levels at around 28 to 31 trillion. And how much of it is real? I mean, I know this is a little bit different from the sort of, quote, fake economy that we were talking about earlier, but what was it, Ilhan Omar, the Somali representative from in Minnesota? She apparently had some winery that was valued at $5 million with no phone numbers, no address, a barely functioning website, which apparently has just completely vanished. Think of all of these businesses, the Leering centers, right? The immigrant-run scam center businesses that were exposed, right before ICE went kind of nuts, right? And how much of it is real? How much of it is real? How much of it is... I mean, even like the economy of COVID, the economy of COVID, I mean, there was a whole bunch of billion spent on COVID and stuff. Like, hey, look, it's been added to the economy. But that's not a real thing, right? That's not a real thing. How much of the economy is real? I think of like sociology departments and media departments and all of that kind of stuff. And that is pretty rough. That's pretty rough. How much of it is real? Government workers, kind of crazy stuff with regards to healthcare. You know, the manufacturer of SSRIs, these are the brain pills to correct the chemical imbalance. It's like insulin for diabetes, except it's not. It's not at all like insulin for diabetes because this stuff is not real. None of it's real. There's no chemical imbalance. There's no reality to it. It's even less real. Like, you know, the Popeye eats his spinach, right? There was a typo, right? There was a typo in how much iron spinach was supposed to have, and so everybody was like, "You got to eat your spinach. It's the greatest thing ever." It's just based on a typo. Or like the guy, the traitor to the West, who wrote the Adolescence movie in England. He's now doing a remake of Lord of the Flies. So Lord of the Flies was based on a real story where a bunch of British school children, the plane crash landed and they were on an island for some time. Nothing bad happened. They all cooperated. It was fine. Lord of the Flies by William Goldman was pushed because it makes people feel like, well, without government, it's going to be just a war of all against all. And we're this close to savagery and we need the government and blah, 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 right? Because look at these kids. They just go feral. They attack. It's all lies. It's not true at all. It's not true at all. The kids cooperated well. They set up their shelters. They hunted for food. They did just fine. There was no particular infighting, no huge issues, and so on. It's all just to make you feel like you need your rulers and make yourself frightened of your fellow slaves and all of that. So, yeah, how much the economy. So, yeah, look around. Like, this is an important thing because, you know, we all got to get ready for when the mirage shatters, right? I mean, I remember saying, that was many years ago, I was saying, like, none of this is real, right? Like the economy that it's all debt. Like, none of it is real. It's all ghosts, shadows, mirages. I mean, very little of it is real. It's sort of like your neighbor. You ever have those neighbors? I had the neighbor like this once. Like, where do you get your money from, man? Where are you getting your money from? If those neighbors, like, they don't seem to work and then eventually, right, when the taxman comes to the door, the house looks like a rummage sale, right? And eventually, they just vanish, right? The house is gone, everything's gone, and everything got repossessed, or they went to jail for some kind of fraud or tax evasion or something like that, right? It's not real. So that person who's like, yeah, you know, it's a great life. You work too hard. You got to learn how to relax, you know? It's like they just go bankrupt, usually, or at least unless they're getting a bunch of money from the government, which is pretty common these days. But it's not real where we live. The buildings aren't real. The clothes aren't real. The airplanes are being kept aloft not by aerodynamics but by fantasy, because it's all debt. It's all debt based. It's like saying I have real wealth because I bought stuff on credit. No, you don't. In fact, it's worse for the economy if you buy things on credit that you can't pay for, because then there's all this labor to repossess them and they've been used and, right, they're no longer as valuable and so on. So everything that is debt-based is an illusion and a delusion, right? I've talked about this before. One of the most powerful statements I ever read as a kid was in Charles Dickens. Income, £20, expenditures, £19, 9 and 6pence, result happiness. Income, £20, expenditures, £20, 1 shilling, result misery. That's the kind of razor-thin wire that people used to live on before they could just go and get free made-up money from the monopoly bank known as the government. But it's not real. Like, it's not real. People say, well, Bitcoin isn't backed by anything. And it's like, but it's not backed by a gun, right? Fiat currency means money, now with bullets, now with prisons. And yeah, it's important to I mean, it's a kind of a horrifying thing. I wrote about this in the character Shane, who was sort of an extension of this in my novel Dissolution, which you should really check out at freedomain.com/books. But there's only one thing that's more creepy than the economy not being real. And let me go back to the fine listeners here and ask you another question that is also quite important. How many people do you meet who are real? How many people do you meet who are real and not just an NPC assemblage of various verbiage handed out by the media and the rulers that be? How many people do you meet who think for themselves, who question narratives? You know, there was this really heartbreaking woman who was like, I've changed my mind. I don't want to be in the job. I want to be at home. She had some boyfriend who offered her like, just stay at home and raise kids and you don't have to go to an office. She's like, no, I'm a feminist. I'm going to have girl boss, girl power. And then she's like, I changed my mind. I don't want to, like, she was really, and it's, you know, part of me is like, oh, she was so propagandized and so on. But the other thing is like, well, but if you don't expose yourself to opposing perspectives and opinions, if you do not expose yourself to those who significantly disagree with you, are you even real? Are you even real? Like that woman, that MFer is not real, the woman from the plane, right? Why did that strike a chord? How many people do you meet where what they say is very interesting and thoughtful and surprising? It's not just what you've heard elsewhere. They're not just repeating or regurgitating other things. So not only is the economy not real, but very few of the people are real in the world. They share as many original thoughts as they share wildly divergent kidneys or spleens or something like that. All right, let me just get your questions and comments. And again, if you want to chat in X, just let me know. Government jobs are less real. Government protected jobs are less real. Any segment that requires force isn't all that real. Well, and of course, the challenge as well is that government jobs interfere with the rest of the economy for the most part, right? There's a fantasy part of the economy, which is arbitrary regulations, inflation, paying for bureaucracy. Yes, that's right. Then there are real capital goods like machines, industry that generate future real wealth. Yes, for sure. If Madison Avenue has to work so hard to convince you to buy that crap, it's probably not a productive good. Yeah. The mall used to be a place to socialize. Yeah, there was a Kevin Smith movie from way back in the day. Oh, Ben Affleck and that girl from 90210, the half-native girl. Anyway, she died young of breast cancer, I think. Shannon Doherty. Sounds Irish. Wasn't totally Irish. But I always remember the tagline because I worked a couple of jobs at the mall. You know, Mall Rats was the name of the movie. It's fairly coarse, but he's got his own kind of comedy, right? And it was like, I remember the tagline. They're not there to work. They're not there to shop. They're just there. It's actually a pretty good tagline. What are your thoughts on classical education, trivium, reading the classics, philosophy, etc.? I'm not sure. I mean, it certainly is better than woke crap. What do we got here? Free domain. When you stick your neck out in defense of reason and rationality, as you have done, it can be challenging when you come across people who criticize you personally instead of dealing with the ideas themselves. The so-called professor whom you often mention is one such example. Over time, no doubt, you have developed the tools to manage emotionally and psychologically. But what kind of toll do you think all of this has taken on your health? I'm not sure what you mean. Oh, you mean like having people disagree with me and be douchebags? I mean, I don't think it's taken any particular toll on my health. It's to be expected, if that makes sense. And my health is very good, so I would say not much. All right. Adrian, what is on your mind, my friend? Can you hear me? Or do we just have no tech working today at all? I think it's working because I heard the walrus guy. I don't know, what is it with people? Like it's, we're just getting trolls today, just calling in and not answering. All right. All right, let's see what else we have here. Is Steph reading the chat? God, no. Yes. All right. The cute Asian lady took my hot dog. It sounds like a Vivid VR game. All right, Adrian, we'll give you one more try. I couldn't hear you. If you wanted to talk, we could not hear you. No, he's gone. All right. All right. Well, or, how much of the economy, I don't know if you guys remember, Mike used to work here, I guess many years ago now, but he had a job in another life, which was working in a hospital. And he would say that you had to have so many translators on staff. Like, how much of the economy is the fact that like having more than one language is considered economically valuable because you have to hire all of these interpreters? In Canada, with the sort of two official languages, how much of the Canadian economy is driven by the need to accommodate, say, English and French, and I guess now Punjabi or something like that, right? So, all right, somebody says, New York City commercial first floor real estate, probably 5% real. So many suspicious stores. There are gift stores that go for $70,000 a month. There's no way they sell that much in shirts, mugs, and magnets. Yeah, how many sandpaper towels do you need in Orlando, right? Joe says, my last 2 engineering jobs have all been with companies selling to government. I changed jobs because as soon as the government contract was over, I changed, the work at the company collapsed. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So somebody says, financially speaking, how are you hedging, if you are hedging, against the possibility, however slim or remote, that you are wrong about the long-term prospects of Bitcoin? Well, I obviously don't have 100% of my assets in Bitcoin. I have this lovely hat, shop.freedomain.com, for this lovely, lovely hat. Are you talking about real businesses like the Quality Leering Center? Yeah. Yeah, I'm still figuring out the X thing. We'll get better audio next time. HOAs, property taxes, insurance. Yeah, is it Ron DeSantis in Florida? He's trying to get rid of, I know Trump's trying to get rid of income tax, and Ron DeSantis is trying to get rid of property tax. In which case, I suppose Florida could be somewhat attractive. But because I think Ron DeSantis was saying, look, when I buy a TV, I don't have to keep paying for that TV every year for the rest of my life, right? So Joe says, not even the criminals are real. Did you see the latest Pretty iteration? Pretty, yeah. So this is the guy, and the BBC, this is the guy, did a show on him a day or two ago. This is a guy who was shot by ICE. And apparently he wasn't good looking enough. Or maybe because they want to whip women into a frenzy and they know that women don't view ugly men as even human, at least a lot of them don't. This is why women think there's a patriarchy, because men below the top 5 or 10% don't even exist to them. So it's like, it's like being a fisherman who only reels in the giant fish and then says, well, there are no small fish in the sea, right? They don't exist. I don't see them. They don't exist. They're below your level of perception. Under the water, underneath the water. So they prettied the guy up. I mean, they prettied pretty up. He was not pretty enough. It's just wild. They gave him straighter teeth. They gave him a thicker neck. They even gave him biceps because they wanted to Luigi Mangione him all the way up, or the charming rogue, the Heathcliff. And they gave him a wider face. They gave him a tan. Oh my God. I've been making a man and blonde hair and a tan. It is good for relieving my tension. So, yeah, and the BBC claims to have, I said, probably suicide by cop or whatever, and they have video, they say 97% accuracy based on facial recognition of this guy, Preddy, attacking and kicking an ICE vehicle from like 7 or 8 days ago or something like that, so. What steps are you taking in the interest of my daughter, Lizzie's future home buying prospects? At this rate, Lizzie will be of age to purchase a home when affordability will be limited to millionaires. A lot of personal questions today. Why would I answer that? I don't really know. All right. Good evening. Good evening, Sode. Nice to see you back here. All right. NPC culture is strong. Yeah. Even in my clinical work, it's hard to find the real in them. Yeah, if you get back, like if you try to get beyond programmed responses from people, scraps that they've heard, an opinion that they've, like to get to actually what they think themselves, there aren't that many people out there. Somebody saying about 5%. About 5%, 2% of people are real. Yeah. Any interest in arranging a free domain cruise? We actually did that many years ago. I've been on a couple of cruises. We did a free domain cruise many years ago. It was a lot of fun. All right. Somebody says, my son has lost trust in crypto because he believes AI will infiltrate it in the future or be deregulated by government, and it has no intrinsic value. Is he living in tomorrow that doesn't exist, or is his concern legitimate? Please excuse the vagueness of my question. Well, I mean, there's crypto and then there's Bitcoin. I mean, I think a lot of crypto is mostly nonsense, but I don't know what AI will infiltrate it in the future. Or be deregulated by government. I don't know what any of that means. So, I mean, you can look at my debate, Bitcoin versus gold with Peter Schiff from back in the day, where I sort of push back against those kinds of objections. In the book The Future, are the police force unarmed? I don't think so. Why? Why don't you read the book? I don't know. That's impressive if the hostility has never caused you any anguish. Well, I know about anguish. Look, I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be completely bulletproof. I mean, there were times when I had speaking engagements set up and had traveled, and people shut the whole thing down with bomb and death threats. There were times when I had to walk out on stage with bomb and death threats and hope that the stage wasn't going to explode. When I was in Australia, every time I'd go to the bathroom, I'd have to bring a security guard out of concern for being shivved or shanked in the back, stabbed in the back. So people's online hostility, that doesn't really bother me because, I mean, people who just bitch with no reason at people online, like me. Look, I mean, I have a great marriage, and I just spent like 2 hours before this show chatting with my wife about things. Just great, lovely conversation. So, I mean, I have a great marriage, I have a great relationship with friends and family. I have a very meaningful occupation, and I thank you all for your help and support in all of that. So when people are just, calling me an a-hole or a Jew, jerk or a Nazi, whatever it is online, or a Jew, I guess. I mean, that their lives suck. I mean, life punishes people a lot more than I ever could or would. In fact, life and the conscience is crueler to bad people. I mean, I'm not a particularly vengeful person. I don't sort of wake up and like, oh, how can I harm my enemies today? I mean, don't get me wrong. I always remember. And if there comes a chance to put a little right, I'll do that. Oh, absolutely. I remember the people who've done me wrong. I could give you the whole list right off the top of my head. So, but I'm not a particularly vengeful person. And one of the reasons is that people who are cruel or vindictive or who lie about others, who spread false rumors, who repeat slander and lies and defamation, they have horrible lives. I mean, my mother was very cruel when I was younger. The punishment that she has experienced is beyond anything I would ever inflict. So I don't need to get angry at people who are jerks to me online because they can't be loved. I mean, it's such a terrible deal. It's such a terrible deal. I don't know why people make this deal, which is, well, I guess I can be a douchebag to someone online and I'm going to get a tiny little bit of dopamine and, oh, yeah, it feels good, man. Got him down. It's like, okay, now what? Now what? What are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? Someone going to be able to love you if you can just, slip someone the poison shiv right away? If you can be a grumpy D-bag and just be sort of petty and vengeful and insulting and ad hominem and this and that and the other, it's like, okay, well, I guess you won this little encounter, but what is it? At least Jesus was offered the whole world in exchange for his soul. I don't know why people give up their entire souls for the sake of 2-bit one-upmanship on X or any place, right? So. Oh, yeah, that's funny. Milton Friedman was in a third world country and they were working on a road. The workers were using shovels. He asked why they didn't use power equipment. The government representative said it was to provide more jobs. Friedman said, then why don't you give them spoons? Right. The spoons. I just remembered the other day. I don't know why. Apropos of nothing. The Spoons played my high school. There was a poll. Do we get Kim Mitchell or do we get the Spoons? Arias and Symphonies. It was a great band, actually. I remember trying to flirt with the female singer in my ripe old age of 16 or 17. It was great. It was good. It was a good night. Can you imagine how much more efficient the U.S. would be if we only had English as the official language? Well, that would be up to the free market capitalists, right? There should never be any language laws, right? All right. Your audio works great on YouTube, but terrible on X. Yeah, that's right. With X, I think it's just using it's just using the speakerphone. Why do you still carry the last name of the family who abused you? Your last name should be Friedomain or something. What, do you think I'm going to change my name? Why on earth would I have time, effort, or energy to go around changing my name? What am I become? Ian Freeman or something? No, because I consider my name has given me far more benefits than it has cost me, because there's a long train of highly intelligent people that sort of, I think, culminated in me. The pretty show that I did, the show is 6279. Thank you. I wish Stefan would have elaborated on his hedging strategy. Yeah, I wish I was 20 again. Steph, do you think Trump might be able to turn the economy around? Seems people don't want to invest because there's always this threat of communists taking over. No, I don't think Trump is able to turn the economy around. He's delayed things for a while. Who's the more whitewashed philosopher, Nietzsche or Marx? Marx, for sure. The whole medical establishment is NPCs. Well, not everyone. I mean, Peter McCullough, Robert Malone, a bunch of other people did some really great stuff. I wish Tucker Carlson would have you on his show. Yeah, I don't. I'm not holding my breath. What are your thoughts on art and visual aesthetics? I think actually Picasso ruined art because his design was too sophisticated. He followed the rules closer than anyone. I don't know what that means. I've greatly expanded the Godwin rule. When they use certain tactics, make certain accusations, their credibility is gone forever as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. La 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 la. That's interesting personal questions coming in today. It feels like my sister has given her soul for travel and restaurants. What is it with women and travel? Is it just they want to take selfies with cool backgrounds? Like, what is it with women? There's nothing wrong. Travel is fine, I guess. But I travel in the mind, right? But I don't know what it is with women and travel. And it's just another one of these things like, okay, let me ask the men here. How do you experience a woman who says, I spent most of my 20s traveling? What do you think of a woman who says, I spent a lot of my 20s traveling? I think it's not. I just think it means that she slept around, got a variety of heavily spiced STDs. All right. Thank you for your daily. Thank you for your clarity over the years. You're very welcome. Thank you for your kind comments. I need help, says someone. I cannot tell anyone my addiction. It's behavioral. I think some kind of eating disorder or compulsion. I cannot stop. Reading helps. Oh, well, of course, you can always go to freedomain.com/call, freedomain.com/call, and you can set up a private call and we can talk about it, and it's just between us. Do you have thoughts from a philosophical take on Javier Milei, self-proclaimed ANCAP libertarian president of Argentina? Yeah, great guy. Real showman. Did he sing cover for a Rolling Stones tribute band or something like that? I actually, in the premium section, I was interviewed. It was my first Spanish language interview. I was interviewed and I gave some significant thoughts on Javier Milei, and you can get it in the premium section, freedomain.com/donate. Just sign up on Locals or subscribe, and you can get that. I remember someone called in and said that her infant son told them to put their socks on in a different order, and you told her not to do it. I was shocked by that. What are you talking about? I don't know what that means. I don't know what any of that means. We love experiences. That's why we love traveling. What do you mean by experiences? Just going to different places. Yeah, like, do you want to look at different buildings? You want to look at, you want to have like slightly different flavored coffee, or what does it mean? Because you're not generating experiences, you're just consuming them, right? You're just consuming experiences. Yeah, body count, yeah. Women in travel, says someone. I can go to another country and have sex with men from foreign countries so I can protect my reputation at home. Yeah. Sugar baby, yeah. My first thought, how did you pay for your travels? Yeah, I mean, when you grow up poor, finances is such a big issue that when people say, I spent a lot of time traveling, man, did this, that, and the other, it's like, how did you pay for it? And we all know how young, attractive women generally get paid for travel. Child of privilege or seller of adult activities. Well, and of course, if a woman is spending her 20s traveling and it's paid for by her parents, that's really bad, because it means you've got a spoiled person with no sense of resource limitation, and that's going to be catastrophic for family finances. Will future private police forces be unarmed because of the low police officer murder rate in unarmed police forces? John, whether the police are armed or not in a couple of 100 years is not the major moral issues that you have in your life. This is just self-whackery avoidance. Come on. I mean, there's people who believe false things, people who are doing evil, people who are hitting and yelling at their children, people who are sending their children to government schools and all this kinds of terrible stuff. So I guarantee you that whether the police may or may not be armed 5 generations after you're dead is not even close to anywhere near within the vicinity of view of moral issues in your life. So I'm not even gonna bother. Monero recently increased quite a bit in valuation. Any thoughts in using it as a companion to Bitcoin, or is it not a real coin in your view? Yeah, I mean, I would talk more about Monero, but nobody ever donates it, so I assume it's not really being used, right? I mean, I've had a Monero donation up on my site for years, and so none of my listeners really seem to care about it. My sister is 60 and monkey branch from man to man. She finally found a very rich man, and travel is the go-to. So not only young women. Yeah. So it says, it's crazy how men believe that girls traveling means body count. My husband just said the same thing. Maybe that's the case for some girls, but absolutely not the experience for me or my friends. Very interesting take. Never knew that's how you men think. Okay, so, and I appreciate that, and you can certainly call in, but just tell me, how did you pay for it? Travel is expensive. It's expensive on 2 levels. It's expensive on 3 levels, in fact. The first, of course, is the direct cost of travel. The second is the fact that you're not making money, so there's opportunity costs. And the third is the fact that if you spend a couple of years traveling, I'm not saying you did, but if you spend a couple of years traveling, then you are behind everyone else in your resume, so that accumulates over the course of your entire workflow. So it's very expensive in 3 different ways. So how do you pay for it? Do. Travel. I never regretted a moment of travel. I do with my husband and children. It's an investment in fun and adventure. You need a side quest sometimes. Yeah, if you're traveling with your family, like, I'm not saying that travel is like innately bad. I've been to a bunch of different places. Travel's not, but just it's not building anything for your future if you travel as a young woman. When is your OnlyFans website going to be up and running? Every now and then I think about publishing to OnlyFans. I think I have a website. I think I have a something there. Kay says, I traveled a lot, but the hookup to destination ratio was approximately 8-1, meaning 1 body per 8 travels, right? When you travel, you run into all kinds of unexpected experiences. I am not going to argue with that. Yes, consuming experiences, creating memories. It might be naive or gullible thing, but it was truly to enjoy a different culture and lifestyle. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But Steph, does the NAB apply to aliens in 500 years? Yeah. All right. Yeah, I remember getting romantic offers when I was traveling quite a bit, and I'm like, no, I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't do it because either I don't particularly like the girl, in which case the romantic activities wouldn't be any fun, or I do like her, in which case I barely get to see her again, so that's no fun. So I think it's a good theory, but not an absolute. Man, you know when people are triggered, right? You know when people are triggered. Look, there's a very smart audience, so I'll just be straight up with you. When I make a generality and people say, well, not everyone, that's you know that you're triggered, right? You know that something's bothering you, and you got to put up some resistance. Of course, not everyone. This is the level of intelligence which this audience does not manifest, right? You're much smarter than this, right? So, if I were to say, yeah, women are in general shorter than men. Well, not all women, and not all. Like, yeah. It's not an absolute rule. Yeah. We know. Come on. Work a little harder than that, right? With self-knowledge and so on. Because a bunch of people are like, well, it's not every woman. And it's like, yeah, it's a generality. Well, yes, that's true. That's true. It's a generality. Welcome to the word generality. It's funny. Oh, dear. All right. That's our good friend. Let's see if the tech is going to come through to us or not. Carrie, what you got?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I have a question for you on religion. So if a person gets in a really bad place, like something really bad happened, And if they're a Christian, they're in despair and they go down and they can draw on their belief in God, and he's on their side, and he's going to fight the battles for them, right? He's going to lift them up, and he's going to go after their enemies. What is a person that doesn't have that? What do they draw on to pull themselves back up out of that despair?
That's a great question. Do you have a situation in mind? Because you're talking about a lot of potentially different situations.
Well, let's say your spouse that you think is one thing and turns out to be something else, and your world just crashes, right? And you're literally crushed. What, like as a Christian, I think you can look at it and say, well, trials and tribulations happen, and that person is going to feel the karma of it, down the line, and God's got you, and you just take a step at a time. But somebody that doesn't have that, like, what do they draw on?
That's a good question.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
how do you say, well, this is going to be okay? If you're not wanting to just go after revenge in a carnal way, but you don't have the capacity to say, well, God's got this for me. God's going to handle that person. That they're going to get their retribution in the end. I don't have to do it.
Right. It's a good question. I can tell you my thoughts, and obviously it's a conversation, so whatever you think, we'll be here in a sec. So I think the most sensible thing, if you get into a relationship with someone, let's say you're a guy, you got a girlfriend, and she cheats on you, right? I mean,
Right.
It's not quite as serious as a marriage, but we're talking to younger people. That's a big thing. My response would be to say, what did I miss? What did I get wrong? What did I do wrong? Why did I choose someone who was going to cheat on me? Why? Like, what is wrong with my thinking? What was wrong with my decision-making process that I ended up with a cheater? And you then have to criticize yourself for these bad decisions. Now, because in general, exceptions, right? Because in general, men are held to a much stricter standard of accountability. Women get to say, I dated this guy, he seemed really nice, and then the mask came off and he just changed and it came out of nowhere and there was no way to predict it. Have you ever heard this kind of stuff from women, or is it just people that I've talked to over the years?
Yes.
Right. So that is excuses are promises of repetition. So when I almost got married to the wrong woman, she wasn't a terrible person or anything like that, but it was just, there was not a lot of compatibility in sort of base values. So when I almost got married to the wrong woman, I could have said, she was in the wrong and she didn't do this and she didn't do that. But what to me was more important was to say, how did this come about that I spent years with a woman who was not the right person for me? How did this come about? Now, I could, to some degree, blame the people in my life, it's fair, right? I had family, friends, and so on, and none of them sat me down for years and said, I don't know that, I don't see you be super happy, blah, blah, blah. It was a friend of mine's girlfriend who said, you'd think a guy who's going to get married would be happier. And I'm like, ooh, so that was just a chance comment from a friend of mine's girlfriend, as opposed to, family, close friends of decades. Nobody said, hey, something's not quite right with this relationship. You don't seem too happy or anything like that, right? Now,
right.
So I could say, well, it's their fault. I was blinded by love or whatever it is, and they should have told me. But then it just comes back to me. Look in the mirror and say, well, who chose to have those people in my life? Who chose? That was me. I can choose to have anyone in my life. And I chose to have people in my life who weren't going to tell me the truth or protect me, and who, in fact, may have had sabotaging elements in their personalities for various reasons. So, for me, and I've sort of promoted this continually on the show, if something bad happens to you, and of course earlier I was saying karma gets people. Like when you get older, you just realize all the people who were jerks when they were younger are dead or miserable by the time you get to your 50s. Like it's all caught up with them, because you can't both be an asshole and be loved. You can't. Right. And love is the great treasure. And love is something that shows up much later in life, because when you're young, especially if you're young and hot and maybe you've got sports abilities or something, you're in a band or but in your 50s it all, you all figure out. You figure out who worked out, you figure out who messed about, and so on. So karma gets them. You can't be a jerk to people and be loved. And all the people I knew who were cruel when I was younger, well, some of them are dead. Some of them have just simply despawned from the world. I don't know where the hell they've gone. And everyone else that I know any details about, they're all pretty unhappy. And some of them, a lot of them got divorced and so on, right? So if you're a jerk, you pay the price. And that's number one. And number two, you can't blame when you're an adult. I don't mean when you're a kid. You have no choice then, right? But you can't blame other people in your life because you're choosing to have them in your life, if that makes sense. So I prefer to figure out what I did wrong, how to change things, and nobody from back when I almost got married to the wrong woman, nobody from back then is in my life, because I take them and say, didn't you notice anything? Well, I didn't want to interfere. And it's like, okay, well, if I had my nose in a book and was walking into traffic, would you interfere with that? It's like, don't give me that, right? And I realized that people did not have my best interest at heart, and they weren't willing to tell me if I was doing something that was unproductive or wrong or problematic, or if I wasn't. They didn't. They either didn't notice that I wasn't happy, in which case, how could they be close to me, or they noticed but didn't care. So why would you have people in your life who aren't going to watch your back that way? So I can get mad at them, or I can just say, well, I just should have better people in my life, if that makes sense.
Right. So you just turn it back to logic, where if I can't really be mad. You can't really be mad at that person for being evil if you didn't see the evil.
Well, sure. I mean, I can get mad at them for sure. And that's the first step, is like, why didn't you help me in this bad relationship or this negative relationship? And you can get mad at people, and that's fine. And that's your first reaction. There's nothing wrong with that. But then at some point you do have to say, why am I getting mad at people I voluntarily invited and kept in my life? Because I'm really
Right.
I'm just mad at my own decisions. It's like getting mad, it's like getting mad at the color you chose to paint your room. I hate this color. It's like, well, why did you paint it that color then? So
It was a mood that day.
right. So then you might get mad at your mood, but you won't get mad at the paint, right? So for me, that is vengeance is mine, saith the conscience, and everything gets recorded. The unconscious just absorbs everything. Everything gets recorded. And people who are, miserable SOBs or aggressive or hostile or manipulative or whatever, they end up with the company they deserve. Everybody gets what they deserve in the long run. And you don't need to. The good news is I don't have to wait for them to die and go to hell. Like, they end up in hell anyway. And
Right.
they may seem like they're getting away with it for a while, right? Like some guy's just running on debt. It's like, hey, man, he's just traveling. He's having fun. He doesn't seem to work. He's not stressed. Then it catches up with him. Like all the people, they hey, man, well, you're too focused on exercise, man. You got to learn how to relax and enjoy and blah, blah, blah. And, what do you mean you're not having dessert? Come on, relax. And what do you mean you don't drink? And relax. What do you mean you don't do weed? And it's like, okay, you do your weed, you have your desserts, you do your stupid drinking, and we'll check our health in our 50s. Just let's see.
Right. Okay. I was just curious.
All right. Thank you. Always a great
Thank you.
pleasure to chat. Thank you very much for your question. And we have Johnny John. John Tron. John Anderson. John Evangelis. Are you with me? You are with
How's
me.
it going today, Stefan?
I'm good. How you doing?
I apologize if I'm hard to hear. I'm coming over a cold.
All right. What's on your mind?
I don't know if this is philosophy or if it's simply philosophy related. But I need a brain that I respect to process it or help me process it. I've been thinking about, to keep it vague, I guess, what's been going on in our countries. This is hard. I look around at people that I know like very well, and these are excellent people. I mean, obviously they're not perfect, but they're good people. And somehow they can't recognize the their empathy is, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe their empathy is not misplaced. I'm speaking, I guess, on Minneapolis. I live in the area, and I how do we hold foreign people who don't respect us enough to all the rules to get here as more important than our citizens, than our laws, than our rules, than what keeps us together? That baffles me.
Okay, so can you give me a question?
That was it. How is it that a person can get how is it a person can get their empathy? I don't want to say misplaced. That's not accurate.
It's not empathy. It's not empathy. It's a bootlicking desire to be praised. That's all it is. Oh, I care about the illegal immigrants. It's like, oh, Pat, aren't you a good? Oh, you're an empathetic. You're a kind. Oh, Pat. It's a bootlicking, subservient desire to feel good, to feel moral, and to be praised as a good little boy or girl. It's got nothing to do with compassion or empathy. You know, there was a tweet about this Jeffrey Pretty. I can't pronounce it pretty. I just pretty and good.
Yep.
Like it's too weird, these people's names, right? So, and somebody said, yeah, he died doing what he loved, protecting pedophiles and rapists from being deported. And that's true. Because if people cared about
It's
human suffering,
true.
then they would care about the innumerable victims of illegal immigrants. I mean, the fraud, the rape, the theft, the assault, the murder. Thousands and thousands and thousands of Americans killed by illegal immigrants. Same, but not all. It's like, yeah, okay, but if it was someone you loved, it would be enough. So
So
they don't
I'm-
have compassion. They don't have morals. They don't have values. What they do is they sniff the air. Oh, which way is the wind is blowing? Which way is the wind blowing? Oh, the king is currently praising this. Okay, I'll do that. Oh, the king is if you say this, everybody pats you on the head and says, good boy, here's a treat. So I'll say this.
How is that any different? This is an honest question. How is see? I look at that response, and while I see the accuracy in your statement, because you are 100% accurate as far as you go, I feel like it misses. Here's what I see it missing. It's like this is difficult. I apologize. I'm at the edge of my brain. I don't want to become what I hate. And I feel like that's coming awful close to becoming the person that calls me a maggot, that calls me a Nazi. That's too close to that.
Sorry, so
It's
you
too
think
simple.
you think that hating back is the same as hating?
Mhm.
No. No, it's not. Absolutely not. That's like saying that using a weapon in self-defense is the same as just shooting someone randomly. Self-defense is perfectly viable. Hating back is not only viable, but absolutely necessary. There are traitors in our midst. Siding with enemies, siding with the corrupt, siding with the immoral, siding with the pedophiles and the rapists and the criminals. They're traitors. Now, I don't wake up in the morning and just pick a random person to hate. I don't like to hate. Ask anyone who's had to use a gun in self-defense. It wasn't their best day. You see Carl Rittenhouse bursting into tears on the stand because he shot into a crowd
That's
of
right.
Democrats and happened to hit a whole bunch of criminals and pedophiles. Hating back is good. See, you don't want your immune system to start attacking your healthy organs, but you sure as shit want your immune system to start attacking the cancers and the bacteria and the viruses that are going to kill you. Hating back is healthy. I'm not saying go be violent. I'm not saying anything like that. But having contempt for those who are trying to destroy your freedoms is healthy. I don't associate with people who want me jailed for pursuing virtue.
And then the problem is my cowardice. I don't approach them and try to help them grow.
I'm not going. I don't want to do the cowardice thing. Are you a Christian man?
It's hard to answer.
Were you raised as a Christian man?
If you call Sunday school and confirmation on maybe a 60% of the time basis, yeah, I guess.
Okay, so you were raised Christian, which means you have a problem with anger and hatred. Or, to put it another way, you were raised as a feminized Christian. And women have a problem with open aggression, anger, contempt, and hatred. Because women work behind the scenes when they have conflicts. They don't stand there and talk to people. They have whisper campaigns. They don't like direct anger. It's not a criticism of women, but it's a fact. So you were raised as a feminized Christian, so you don't like anger and hatred.
I don't like improper anger and hatred. I like carefully controlled anger and hatred. There's a difference.
Okay, don't do that.
There's the difference between
don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. No, come on. That's not fair. That's feminine. That's manipulative as hell. Feminine? Because I'm saying you have a problem with anger and hatred, and you said that earlier. I don't want to be just like my enemies. So you have a problem. They've got anger and hatred, and you said it. So you have a problem with anger and hatred because you think it makes you like your enemies. So then I point that out, and then you say, well, but Steph, I only like unjust and improper anger and hatred. It's like,
I didn't say
hang on. Let me finish. Let me finish. Then I'll shut up. So, and then you loftily inform me that unjust anger and hatred is not the same as just anger and hatred. So you're telling a moral philosopher who's been doing this for over 40 years that injustice is not the same as justice. And you're informing this, you're telling me this like you're telling a surgeon with 45 years experience that surgery, Dr. Steph, is not the same as stabbing someone. It's like, I know that justice is different from injustice. I know that anger and rage and hostility can be toxic. I'm fully aware of that. I said that at the very beginning. I said that hating back is different from hating.
Yes, you proved your point.
Okay.
You're right.
So don't do that. When someone's trying to give you a good answer, don't tell them, don't define, well, Steph, but there's the good and there's the bad, and those things are different. It's like, yes, I know.
No, I fell into the trap. I proved your point that I have a disconnect. I have in my overzealous work towards making sure that I don't fall into unjust anger and hatred, I've actually went too far and am being feminized by it.
Right, but what you did do, which was positive, is you gave me an example of demonstrating what I think is, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, what I think is healthy anger. So I was annoyed by what you said. Did I call you names? Did I call you a bad person? Right? I told you what I thought was going on. I think it was quite helpful. I'm not, full of hatred and anger towards you, but it annoyed me what you said. So I got to express that. And so I think that's an example of healthy anger. I mean, unless you feel that that's not the case, and people can certainly tell me that, but it was annoying. I expressed what I thought and felt. I don't think it made us enemies or anything like that. And it turns out to have been quite helpful, right?
No, I get it. It's a
All right.
Eh.
Is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
no, just I'm glad to see you back. I don't always ride with you 100%, but it's good to see you back.
I appreciate that. And feel free to call back anytime. I really do appreciate the questions and comments. And anger is something we need. We absolutely need it. All right. I just did a show on this. I don't know if it's out yet. Punished. This is a punished Molyneux meme. I don't even know what it means. What's on your mind, my friend?
Stefan, how are you, man?
I'm well. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Just wanted to thank you. Back in like 2015, I consumed some of your content and kind of changed my outlook on everything. So I just wanted to give you a thanks for what you do and the work you do. I'm sure it shaped a lot of other people like me. So I just wanted to give you a big thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm glad that you found use in what I'm doing, and I'm glad you're still listening.
Yeah, man, for sure. I do have to say though, to the people that think that this ICE thing is, pushing the boundaries, that's kind of the problem with so-called conservatives today. Liberals are just always pushing the ball down the field. They're constantly pushing the ball down the field. The left's always shamelessly, no shame. And we're just always kind of taking a knee. And that's why we always lose. That's why we just drag behind. We're 10 years behind the left in every facet on everything. And no real country lets people, invade their country, stay here illegally, steal from us, rob us, scam us. And then when we try to enforce the law, they call us racist and things like that. Those aren't good people. That's not good morals. And it's funny that we're the ones that are being attacked for our morality, knowing that the situation that's at hand is, situated in the way that it is. So it's just wild. To the guy that was just talking, I just think, like you said, there's traitors to this country, and it's okay to push back against that with everything you got.
I appreciate that. And I mean, Obama, what did you deport 3 million people? There were like 58 deaths. Nobody cared because people are the media shows them this stuff, and then they're like, oh, right. As opposed to they're just it's self-indulgent, emotional bullshit immaturity, and it is. Yeah, it's embarrassing just to there's a picture of somebody getting shot. Oh my God, that's so terrible. Or like this wife jack meme. It's like, well, can't we just fix it without hurting or upsetting anyone? And it's like, no, you
can't.
And you got to blame the people who let the illegals in, not the people trying to get them out, right? Like somebody stabs you, and then somebody has to pull the knife out. Do you get mad at the person who has to pull the knife out? It's like, well, no,
right.
So.
Yeah. Hey, man, I appreciate it. I'm going to get back. You kind of caught me in the middle of dinner now, but
all right, go eat. Don't let the food
I'm enjoying
get cold.
the content. Thank you. God bless.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. All right. And now I can, what is it? Now I can wait for everyone to say, hey, man, you're an ANCAP and you're defending the power of the state, man. And you just got murdering people. I don't mean to laugh, but oh my God. Oh my God. Crazy. All right, let me just get back to your questions. Und the comments and the other things, other things. All right, what do we got here? Love this platform. Really gave me a drive many years ago. I'm happy to see this still running. Good. What is your long-term plan for Free Domain once you've shuffled off this mortal coil? Well, hopefully somebody's going to step into my shoes. Hopefully, maybe my daughter. Somebody's going to step into my shoes. Is addiction a spiritual problem? No, addiction is self-medication for unresolved childhood trauma. Yeah, can you imagine, one of the most unproductive things in the economy is people pointing out exceptions to general rules? Because it just wastes everyone's time so much. Excuse is a promise of repetition. I'm stealing that. Please do. Oh yeah, everything everybody makes excuses for, they're just promising to do it again. All right. Do you ever wish you could take a pill and not have to eat, sleep, or use the toilet? I've never wished that. I try not to dream about things that are impossible because I'm running out of life. Right? I'm going to be 60 this year. 60! 60! All right. All great men are assholes. No, I don't think that's true, but most, yeah. All right. The hardest square to circle when you miss the people you had to leave behind because they're bad people, but you still have feelings for them. That's the hardest part. Well, you have feelings for them because you haven't accepted their immorality. You're still complying with their preference to see themselves as good people. I wish Steph were my pet. I thought that said puppy. Patty. I understand this, dude. Some people don't understand that ICE is taking out real criminals, rapists, murderers, drug smugglers, etc. That is true. All right, Tyler. We got some callers now, man. What's on your mind? I know there's a little bit of a delay. Tyler, you may need to unmute. All right. No, Tyler. We will go with Chief. If you want to unmute. Going once, going twice. All right. We will try Thomas. You all may need to unmute. Is it 3 for 3? You know what? If people make requests, I just tell you, this is going to be my policy from now on. If people make requests to talk and then don't talk, you're banned. I just don't want to waste people's time. Because, hundreds of thousands, millions of people listen to this over time, and it is wasting person years. All right. Let's get to your last questions. Yeah, you don't fight with higher standards than those you fight against. Yeah, for sure.
Hola, Stefan, can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know. I heard you talk to me, but I couldn't talk before, so that's why I wasn't replying. Maybe there's a delay or something.
All right.
Hello, here I am. I have a question regarding something you tweeted the other day. You posted about if anyone has convinced anyone about not dating a person that might not be good for them, if they had any luck with them. And I want to share the experience of my, how do you say when it's the sister of your spouse? What's the word?
Sorry, say again.
What's the word for sister of your spouse?
Oh, a sister-in-law?
Yeah, that's exactly. So my sister-in-law, she is quite a bit younger. She's 23 years old. And she has been with a guy for 3 years now, which is clearly enough guys. So for starters, they are not in anything serious and not serious relationship.
I'm sorry, how old is she?
It's 23.
Okay, so she's 23. She's been with a guy for 3 years, and there's no ring.
No ring at all. In fact, there was no relationship until a few months ago. They were like going out, but they weren't even dating. I think he was even cheating on her a lot. We even thought that he was having a family with some other woman because it's really that kind of guy. But she doesn't understand. My spouse, she tells her that he's clearly not guy. I tried to share my thoughts as well, but it doesn't work. So what can we do in that situation? Do you have any clue? Anything you can share about that?
Is she Christian?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I would. I give people good advice, and if they don't take it, I ostracize. I mean, I'll take a couple of runs at it. I'll take 2 or 3 runs at it. But if people still don't take any good advice, I just ostracize. I don't continue. I just don't want to watch slow motion train wrecks.
There's not much hope then, eh?
I mean, you make the case, right? I mean, if you had an uncle who was a chain smoker and you said, Unc, you gotta quit smoking, man. You're gonna get sick. You're gonna die from smoking, right? And you make that case and you give him the facts, the data, and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And if he doesn't take the advice and he gets sick, I give people good advice so I don't have to get involved when bad things happen. So if I say to a guy, don't date her, man, she's the wrong guy to date. She's the wrong person to date. She's the wrong woman to date. And if he's like, no, she's great. And I say, look, here's why. I've got some experience with this. Here's what I've seen. I've done 20 years of this, talking to people about bad relationships. So here's the red flags. And if he's like, no, I don't agree. It's like, okay, great. So then he goes, and very few people will come back to me and say, I need to complain to you about the relationship, because they know what I'll say. You didn't take my advice. And the good thing, hang on, but the good thing about people not taking your advice is you don't have to get involved in the problems after that. It's freedom. It's freedom for you. Give people good advice. If they take it, fantastic. If they don't take it, good luck.
Well, that's true. But there's a caveat here. She kind of takes the advice, but she says that she cannot leave him. She knows that he probably cheats, that he's a bad guy, that he's not good for her, but she said that she cannot leave him.
Okay, so then I would view her as a corrupt and immoral person. Do you know why?
Oh, why?
Because she's giving the biggest reward to an evil guy, which is sexual access.
Right.
The biggest reward that women can give to a man is to open their legs. That is the biggest reward any woman can give to a man. So if he's a corrupt and evil guy, he's a liar, he's a cheater, he's a beater, he's whatever, right? If the woman continues to open her legs for him, then she is a vessel for the continuance of evil.
She has to know that, right?
Well, I mean, sure. But I mean, if she's saying, well, he's a bad guy, but I'm still going to F him, I wouldn't have anything to do with people like that. Hey, if you've got a fetish for criminals, you're not staying around my family. If you want to bang guys who are liars and cheaters and beaters, go take your criminal fetish to the other side of the planet, but you're nowhere near my family, and I sure as hell aren't letting you around my children.
Let me add another angle to this, because I think there's something else that could be happening here. Maybe some kind of depression, because she has some feeding problems. So she eats and then she throws out what she eats. So that's clearly there's something not right in her mind. What do you make of that?
Well, she needs to get to therapy. Eating disorders are difficult. She needs to get to therapy, but you can't fix her. I can't fix her. She needs to get to therapy. Like if she had a big toothache, you'd say, would you sit there with a pair of pliers and try and fix it? No. You'd send her to a dentist, right?
That's true.
Yeah. So when people have severe mental health disorders, like binge purging, bulimia, eating disorders, you send them to a psychologist. You send them to an expert. Somebody saying, why are women so turned on by criminals and evil? Well, not all of them, obviously, but women are turned on by criminals and evil because that's how resources were achieved or gained throughout almost all of human history. Capitalism is a pretty modern phenomenon. It hasn't completely rewired the female brain. But if she's got severe mental health issues, she needs to go to therapy. And you can't fix her.
Does it have to do maybe with she doesn't have a father present? So maybe her father abused her a little bit?
Well,
could that be a reason?
But maybe, sure, maybe. But you can't mind read people. They've got to go to therapy. Because if she's a binge purger, she's probably not telling much of the truth, because a lot of binge purging is about hiding it, right? So she'd be a pathological or congenital liar as part of the eating disorder. So trying to theorize about why people are doing what they're doing is only helpful if they're honest, if they're going to tell you the truth no matter what, or if they know the truth. So trying to theorize about why people are dysfunctional is usually a hole with no bottom. You'll never find out. You can't know for sure. You can't have those conversations directly, and she probably won't tell you the truth anyway. So yeah, wasting time, I'm sorry, just to be blunt, right? But trying to figure out people's motives is a way of paralyzing yourself. Well, if I could only figure out why they're doing what they're doing, that would give me some kind of magical control over them. But you say she's addicted to a negative relationship. Well, so are you, my friend. She's trying to fix her boyfriend. Who are you trying to fix? Your sister-in-law.
You're right.
How about you show her how to not try to fix people by not trying to fix her and accepting her for who she is and whether you like her or not, whether she's productive or positive or not. Sometimes we help people the most by separating from them because we're demonstrating and modeling what it is like to have rational standards in our relationships. Did you see what I mean?
Yes, makes sense.
Because if she's like, well, I want to fix this guy. I want to make it better. And you're like, well, I want to fix you. And just this whole daisy chain of everybody wanting to fix each other. How's she going to, right? How's she going to sort that out? I mean, if she wants help to if you know, maybe she's broke and she needs some money for therapy, you can always help out with that. But it's always amazing to me how everyone says this other person is addicted to a bad relationship and I can't stop talking to this other person, or I can't set up rational boundaries. So the way that I view it, I'll just tell you straight up, the way that I view it is that if somebody has significant mental health issues, they are coughing up blood and bleeding from their eyeballs. Now, if your sister-in-law was coughing up blood and bleeding from her eyeballs, would you invite her over for tea?
Rather difficult, right?
Well, you wouldn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you sure as heck wouldn't have her around children. People who are crazy or highly dysfunctional are automatically always trying to make you crazy and dysfunctional too, because they will continually bombard you with impossible situations. They will ask for your advice. They'll never listen. They will beg for your feedback. They will never take it, and they will make you crazy. So they are the equivalent of somebody infected with a terrible illness who's coughing into your ear and up your nose. People who are crazy, people who are highly dysfunctional, are mechanisms by which that crazy dysfunction is trying to spread to you. You have to be firm and cut them off and send them to a therapist where maybe they could be helped. But if a woman has rotting teeth, you don't French kiss her, because that rot is going to spread to you. Crazy people will make you crazy if they're not getting better. I mean, tell me, guys, tell me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. The thing I'm thinking about is, what if she doesn't show this craziness a lot? She helps out a lot with our daughter, actually. So cutting her off will be a little bit too much, I think, right? If she doesn't directly affect what she does to us.
So are you saying that she's completely sane around your daughter, this person is she in an abusive relationship, or is the guy just cheating, or what's going on?
Yeah, but not the guy. The guy's off limits. She knows that he cannot come any closer to any of us.
No. What I'm asking is she in an abusive relationship with the guy? Is he violent? Is he verbally abusive? Does he call her names? Or is he just a hound dog who cheats?
Hound dog. He's a hound dog.
Okay, so he's not mean to her. He just tortures her by cheating.
Right.
Okay. So she has an eating disorder, which means she has a problem with self-esteem and body dysmorphia, which means she thinks she's overweight when she's not. So she hates the way she looks and she feels ugly. And this guy's cheating on her, which means he is fanning the flames with the breath of 1,000 winds. He is fanning the flames of her mental illness. Because if you feel ugly and unattractive and your boyfriend keeps cheating on you, that's going to make you worse, right?
Yeah, and that makes me sad to think about it.
Well, it should make you angry. Sad is female coded, right? Men get angry. So why don't you talk to the boyfriend?
I don't see him.
What?
I don't see him. I don't know him.
You don't know him. You've never met him. They've been going out for 3 years.
I've never. Exactly. Yep. That's the kind of hound dog shit.
So he just doesn't see her?
He gets to see her at night, and that's it most of the time.
Okay. Well, are you saying that this woman who is in a relationship, I would call that an abusive relationship because he's provoking a very dangerous mental illness. Like bulimia is very dangerous. I mean, people die of eating disorders. They don't generally die of depression, but they can die from eating disorders. So this guy is rolling the dice with his girlfriend's life to some degree, in my opinion. So this is a very desperately toxic and dangerous situation. Are you saying that she's perfectly sane around your child?
Yeah, she cares our daughter sometimes.
So are you, no, you didn't answer me. So you're saying that she is perfectly healthy around your child. There's zero dysfunction.
When she throws out, she does it very carefully and she hides it. And sometimes I don't even find out. I find out some of the times she does it, but I know she does it every time. For example, she does that, and she only talks about this abusive relationship with my spouse, and my spouse talks to me about this. So that's how I know about it.
Okay, so does she throw up when she's at your house?
Yes.
And so she's thrown up when she's been taking care of your children?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay, bro, what are you doing? What are you doing? Is it a daughter?
Yes. 1 year old.
Okay. So you have a babysitter who's eating and then forcing herself to throw up while taking care of your baby.
The problem is that my baby could copy her, right?
No, you have somebody with a significant mental illness in charge of your little girl. And you have somebody with a very distorted and disordered view of food feeding your child. Like, this stuff communicates, in my opinion. She's going to have looks, her lips going to curl, she's going to roll her eyes. There is going to be something that this mental illness is going to transmit itself somehow. I'm not saying 100%. But you have somebody with a pretty severe mental illness in charge of your daughter. She needs help. She's got to get to a therapist.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. I have to step in, clearly. Now I see it. I should probably talk to this guy, right?
Eating disorders have a high mortality rate, with anorexia nervosa being the deadliest, resulting in a death rate of about 5 to 10% within 10 years of onset. Within 20 years, about 1 out of 5 people are dead from anorexia, which is slightly different. Binge eating disorder, which I think is binge purge and so on, but it's not great. Now, about 9% of the US population experience an eating disorder in their lifetime. So it's not as uncommon as people think. The death rate for bulimia is estimated around 3.9 to 4%, making it one of the deadliest mental illnesses. Individuals with bulimia are also at a higher risk for suicide and various health complications. It's going to kill her, quite likely, over time. Somewhat likely. And it certainly is going to significantly harm her health.
And it's definitely taking her youth as well.
Right. Sorry, statistically, it's not going to kill her. Mortality rate of about 4%. But it is very dangerous. Heart complications, esophageal cancer, because she's pushing all of that acid, right? Past her throat. Overall, having an eating disorder is associated with a 339% increased chance of dying. Anorexia is 521% increased chance of dying. Certainly anorexia is the deadliest eating disorder and one of the deadliest mental disorders. So in my particular view, again, I'm no expert here, so do your research and so on, but in my particular view, this is an emergency with significantly elevated risks of death.
Yeah, it's life. It's life.
The conclusion, bulimia nervosa is a life-threatening condition with a notable death rate. Bulimia can lead to serious health complications, including electrolyte imbalances, dehydration, digestive issues, tooth decay, and even stomach rupture. These complications can affect various body systems and may result in life-threatening conditions if not addressed. I mean, I don't know if you know this, of course, but if you have significant nutrition issues, you can lose your period, right? If you have nutrition issues.
Yeah, she's always kind of cold and she has slow metabolism and low energy all the time. So she's definitely hurting in that times.
Do you know if she uses diuretics, laxatives, and so on? Does she over-exercise? I mean,
she used to over-exercise as well.
Right. Tooth decay, tooth erosion, and tooth pain. These salivary glands located just below the ears can swell. You have metabolic abnormalities because of poor nutritional intake because you keep throwing up the food. But the earlier someone gets help, the better their chances of reversing the damage bulimia can do and recovering fully. Do you know how long she's had this disorder?
For a few years already.
Okay.
For a few years. She used to be overweight when she was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And then she started
Okay. Well, let me just look up here, and I know you can do this, but about 60% of individuals who receive treatment for bulimia make a full recovery.
%60.
Right. Cognitive behavioral therapy, this is why I'm talking about therapy, CBT is considered the most effective. After 10 years, about 50% of individuals diagnosed with bulimia will recover fully, while a third may recover partially. 10 to 20% may continue to experience symptoms. But the longer she does this, the harder it is to turn around. It's an emergency. She has a dangerous addiction or a dangerous mental health issue. In my obviously humble, amateur, idiot opinion, don't take any medical advice from me. I'm just reading stuff out. But in my view, this is an emergency, and you need an intervention. But you can go and talk to a therapist. So what I would do if I were in your shoes, I don't know what you should do, but what I would do if I wanted to deal with this is I'm a big fan of psychological expertise. I would look up eating disorder specialists, and I would call them up and I would ask for advice and do what they say. I'm just a podcaster, right? So don't do anything that I'm saying, but talk to the experts and say, this is what's happening. It's been going on for years. She's even binge purging when she's taking care of a baby. What do we do? And I would try to take I would certainly take the advice of the experts, because you can recover this kind of stuff, but the longer you go in the longer you go in the wrong direction, the harder it is to turn around. But in my view, again, just an amateur idiot about this stuff, but in my view, this is a dangerous emergency.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan. It made me actually look at it in another way, and I'm clearly more preoccupied about it. Thank you for your suggestion as well.
You're very welcome, and I hope it works out. Yeah. Please keep me posted about how it's going, and if there's anything I can do to help, please let me know, and I appreciate the call. All right, Sode, who is more of an expert, obviously, than me, says, binge eating and any eating disorder is more control issues. It's a form of being in charge of something. It's a symptom of not always anxiety. Yeah. I think that's very interesting. A lot of times, if people have gone through a period of feeling unattractive, they may overcompensate to try and feel more attractive. So, all right. Well, I'll stop here. I really do appreciate everyone's calls tonight. I'm sorry about the audio issues and sorry about the people we didn't get to, but I think I did try earlier to get you in. If there are technical issues, I will have better audio next time. People who are getting this in the final version, you won't notice it because it's all been fixed up, but I will sort it all out. And I really do thank everyone. freedomain.com/donate to help out the show. Shop.freedomain.com. Peacefulparenting.com. freedomain.com/books. We've got a whole new redesigned book section. Thanks, James. And I'd love for you to check out the books. Lots of love. Good night, everybody. Take care.